Swaiba, the River Africa Woman Kenya Election Series. And we are very excited to be having a young woman who identifies as a political leader, a mental health expert. And well, in this series, we're talking about how young women experience elections in Kenya. And I think, Amisa, we are very excited to have you because you wear very many hats.
Yes.
You're a member of a political party. But before we go on, because I could get lost in, just introducing you, please introduce yourself to us.
Thank you, Nyambura, for having me. I've been looking forward to the day that I'll be hosted by Swaiba. I'm a fan of Swaiba podcast,
Thank
so
you.
I'm glad to be here. So this time it will be me being seen on the screen.
Finally.
Yeah. So my name is Amisa Rashid. I usually say Amisa with an A because
Okay.
it gives my identity as a Nubian woman, a marginalized community in Kenya. I'm also a leader. I'm a secretary general of a political party in Kenya, where in a political parties in Kenya we have over 80, and women are less than 10 leaders of these political parties.
That is sad. That's a bad
Yeah.
number. Yeah.
The other aspect is that I'm a mental health advocate. I run an organization that focuses on community-based mental health interventions, innovations, approaches, and trauma-informed program just to build a cohesive society.
You have such a robust CV. But and we'll get into that because I think the questions we'll be tackling will be as robust as your CV. Now, tell me, Amisa, as a Nubian Muslim woman, do you feel like people in your community, especially women, have been taken as primary stakeholders in this election?
Not yet, not yet, not yet. And that is something that I was very angry about because even yesterday, I'm actually supervising the Kibra constituency and the elections in Kibra. And you'll find that in most of these observing position, even this minor community, these minor opportunities whereby Nubian women can be given an opportunity which is somehow closer to politics. They are not given that opportunity. And if Kibra is their homeland, how do we expect then not to be, how do we expect to get such opportunities outside our homeland, and yet in Kibra we don't get them? So it is something that I was having the conversation with a woman yesterday. She came to me and she was asking, how can I be an observer? I told her it's late, but it's something that we are still in the discussion with. Because for us, we have been struggling between finding how can we not be, because most of the time if you try to support your tribe, you're called, you're in the ethnic tribalistic
Yeah.
tribe. But
Yeah.
if you don't, because you are marginalized, you
You're
don't
a-
get
you're a
those.
se- yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it's also a thin line between how can we engage in politics while supporting mentoring and creating spaces for Nubian women, but at the same time,
Avoiding the ethnic polarities.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you think young women and youth have, would you say in large, young women and youth have been engaged with political processes, or do you think what let me not preempt the question. Do you feel like young women and youth in general have been engaged in the political processes?
I think they have. And one thing that I've been working towards is sometimes I think I will look at it from two different perspectives. One perspective is that they have been engaged, some opportunities have been created, but do these youth or young women want to be engaged in politics in the first place? And the second aspect is when these spaces are not there, how can we actually make these spaces available for this said population? So if the spaces are there, the people who are supposed to be given the opportunities don't want, because I was actually having conversation with them, and for them it will take a lot of time to demystify that politics is a dirty game. Because even as a young woman, you are told you're going into politics, everybody will tell you how you're going to change, how you're going to be toxic like the politicians, how you're going to be a thief. They're not looking at the other aspect, because for so long in the Kenyan political spaces, we've seen political leaders who have not been serving us or not serving the agenda that they're supposed to be doing. So from them, people see you entering the political space or engaging in anything in politics as we are going to lose you. Like you're going to accept their values, behaviors, so we are no longer going to have you in
So
this
how
process.
how hard is it then to be a young woman who is actively involved in mobilizing not only her community but also the young people, because that's how I know you. How hard must it be for you as a
It's
voter mobilizer but also as a political leader?
it's actually hard, super hard, but I usually say that the advantage for me is that I have a strong support system, especially from the people in my party the executive committee in my
Mm,
political
mm,
party,
mm,
because I know for sure the first time I was given, because Secretary General is that you are the main decision maker of the political party.
mm.
And most of the time, let's say I go to meetings for IEBC or RPP representing my party, and you find that all over the 80 political party, there are actually no women, few women, and we are only two Muslim women. The
Oh,
other one is
wow.
an elder woman,
Wo-
and I'm there. So the first time I went there, and I was in a meeting, I had people saying, I had everybody has to introduce themselves, and then one person say, I have an AOB, and he said, why are they sending us small children
Oh,
to be
gosh.
representing us and sitting at the same table as us? I was so shocked, because at the back of my mind, I had not expected
Even with
that.
your robust CV, you are still
Yes.
a
Hmm.
young child.
And that thing stung me. So the first thing was like, I finished my introduction as confidently as I am. Uh, Nikamalizana nayo, I went out, and the first person I called was my party leader. And I was like, I don't think this space is enough for me. I don't think I deserve to be in this space. And for him, he had to remind me, and he told me, excuse me, you're allowed to feel that way, but I want you to remember that we got that position because of merit. So these people are doing that, saying these things to get into your skin, and you don't allow them to get. But for me, as much as I have the support system, you have to wonder, like, if I had a male counterpart the same age as me, doing the same thing as me, he wouldn't have been
Sure,
told
the
the
same.
same
Yeah,
thing. So
yeah.
you see, it has to take me
So,
double emotional struggle or
I
emotional
mean, sexism
management.
is misogyny. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like it's hard, and that is why I totally understand women who are not getting into political spaces, because if you are not able to handle these things, it will break you, even your mental health, completely.
As a mental health practitioner, we were not going to
Mm-hmm.
get to this question, but I feel like we should go to that
Mm-hmm.
question. As a mental health practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say
Mm-hmm.
are perhaps some of the tactics someone who's as active, because you know what, one of the things that deters young women from engaging politically
Mm-hmm.
is the mental health toil,
Mm-hmm.
because it gets to you, as you say, it gets
Yes.
to you at some
Mm-hmm.
point, and most of young women just are dissuaded and leave the political spaces
Mm-hmm.
from a mental health
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What would you what would you say? What would you tell young women who have left political spaces because of misogyny and sexism, but also the emotional labor that comes with fighting that every day?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of, and I don't usually like telling women that they should take extra effort in maintaining their mental health, because you are not telling men that. Why
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
women?
It's
But
also it's a double
unfortunately,
standard.
yeah,
Yeah.
the circumstances forces us to acknowledge that women go through a lot of psychological, even traumatic experiences. They're harassed sexually, verbally, emotionally, cyberbullying left, right, and center. How you're dressed, everything literally scrutinized, from how you're dressing, how you appear. I know of women, because I'm in these political spaces, and when we are looking into getting political young people in, especially women in political spaces, the worry was some were given even ultimatums with their partners. It's either you choose your family or you choose
Oh
politics.
wow.
So you see, for people who do not, like, if I'm not grounded and know that I want to pursue politics, that means that they have to step back and choose between, go back to their family. And for those who
Those
decided
are hard
that,
choices.
yes,
Yeah.
and for those who've decided that to go politics, they'll tell you, I was divorced because of that. And now it's actually hard, because now the same community will judge you. They will tell you, where's your husband? You cannot take care of your
You lose both
family.
ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel it's usually unfair. Now that comes with the aspect of how well do you know yourself first, self awareness. So before you decide that I want even to get into the political journey, you need to be aware of the psychological and emotional turmoil that you are going to go through. And then after that, how are you going to protect yourself from all this? And before protecting yourself, if things get worse, how are you going to find a way to manage all these negative experiences that are causing issues on your mental health? So if you don't know yourself, you wouldn't know what is actually affecting you. So I usually say the first aspect of women before getting into political seats, how aware are you? How do you know your triggers? Because the triggers are used to abuse women. Because if
Mm,
I know your triggers, I
yes.
know
It's
you are passionate about kids, let's say, and you don't have a family, I'll come at that, and
yeah.
I'll break you even as an opponent. If you're a
Yes.
single mother, I'll use that and
That's
attacked you.
true.
So do you know your triggers, and are you so comfortable in owning them to the extent that if they're used against you, you are so comfortable that it does not deter you from your
That's true.
journey?
It's
Yeah,
also easy to seek help when you know where your triggers are.
exactly.
You know what? Now that you're talking about mental health, there's this thing about Kenyans we say after elections, whether you
Mm,
ask somebody for your money
mm,
or it's anything, even if it's tackling. I mean, everyone is after elections. And I
mm,
feel like life has somewhat stopped for
mm,
all of us.
mhm,
I mean, so my question is, what I, as a, and this is, I'm asking as a mental health
mm,
practitioner, what are your experiences in experiencing one,
mhm,
watu wa kawaida, but
mhm,
also the people women who are in political spaces? I think you touched
mm,
on that,
mm,
but also the youth. Like,
mm,
what would you say?
mm.
How are we doing in mental health wise?
Yeah. In the morning, actually the before today's morning, I think the past 2 weeks there has been a meme going on that if you see the GSU thingy
Mm,
cars, you're on the opposition side. So it has been, and at the back of my
we
mind
have a
was
way
like,
of making fun of serious things, very
yes.
serious things.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So I saw those GSUs early in the morning today in Kibra, like they're being dispatched everywhere. So at the back of my mind, I'm like, are we in the opposition or? And actually, as I was speaking, the person who, like, the common border person who drops me was telling me, listen, now you make sure that you have food in your family,
yeah.
and just make sure that if a specific candidate is announced, don't get out, don't do what, just stay inward because kutachafuka. So how is that affecting me? As a person, even, leave alone the common mananchi, I'm actually living on survival mode. I'm anxious. I don't know what is going to happen. Yes, I can have all the food and else, but for how long?
Psychologically,
Like
yeah.
psychologically, like I'm trauma. I'm actually have PTSD
We
from previous
Yeah, and we also very
elections.
hyper vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything could be a tire, but you're very hyper vigilant. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So you see, even for like living in that environment, because I work in Kibra, I live in Kibra. Kibra is my home, and I know that it is a hotspot for political violence. Each and every time, whether it's losing, winning, we don't even know. Like I don't know who castigates these things, but I know for sure there's going to be political violence. I was speaking to youth when we are doing peace dialogues at the community level because we are trying to enhance the aspect of peace. And they were saying, for us, si tumechoka, because they don't have a specific political candidate. For them, they want to eat whatever money the political
It's
candidates will
it's
dish.
actually an economy. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And for them, they don't care. For at the back of my mind, I was asking, and that is a conversation that I had with them. Like, if you're given the money, so are you going to cause violence? Because at the end of the money, I can give you, but choosing to fight somebody or hurt somebody is a personal decision. What are you going to do about
Mm,
it? It's not
mm,
like the person who gave you money to go and cause violence will be monitoring you. No.
mm-mm,
So
mm-mm.
and you can't tell them don't take the money. We know the rate of COVID-19, unemployment, economic
That's true.
instability, all these kind of
Yeah.
things. So you cannot tell them don't take the money. No.
No.
But what you ask them is start the conversation around, if you take the money, how are you going to make the right choice so that you don't hurt your neighbor because you have been paid to do so? So those are the conversations. Like for us, we know for sure the money are being dished out and they cannot refuse. But how can we make them realize that they have to be conscious of the choices they are making to from the election
I mean,
period?
it's sad to hear you say that, you're certain that money has been poured in terms of, fueling violence. Because then, and especially when you juxtapose that against
Mm-hmm,
that, listening to the ABC and
mm-hmm,
every political leader who was
mm-hmm,
saying young people
mm,
are apathetic,
mm,
they're jaded
mm-hmm,
politically.
mm-hmm.
But then they're easy to, is that why they're easy to use for political violence?
I think it's because of that, and I think one thing that I have noticed, and I've been trying to figure like what is the main agenda of these people, because for young people, it's not even not apathy, because their apathy, they're saying that you are not going to vote.
Mm.
But the fact that I can pay you to cause violence and you did not vote, it doesn't
So
make
it's a
sense to us.
complex phenomenon that we do
It
not know
like
what's.
we don't know, and I usually say I cannot blame. Sometimes we tend to say it's unemployment or what. We know those are some of the main causes, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's more towards leaning towards romanticizing
Mm.
the aspect of poverty and youth, so that it looks from the perspective that because everybody everywhere now is talking about youth, but have we taken time to intentionally involve this youth to listen to why they are pathetic, or we just have representatives just speaking on their behalf, yet that grassroots level youth, we've not given them the space to understand why or what is going on. We haven't done that. So I feel that we are actually blaming the wrong thing, but actually youth also have to take responsibilities, because once you are blamed and once you know money is being poured for you to cause certain kind of violence, we also need to understand where you're coming from, but what decision are you going to make
To make.
afterwards?
Well, you know what? I will ask this question, but I'll ask it from the where we started. As a young Nubian Muslim woman, you've had manifestos, and I'm sure you have, you have kagured them very much in terms of examining them. Do you think, one, do you think Kenya is in the path of actualizing the SDGs, but also the socio-economical and political rights enshrined in the Constitution, Article number 43? But and if so, I mean, where where do you see us in the direction of after the elections? Yeah.
I think it's a long, especially when you're talking about manifestos. And this general election, the good thing is that we have a good number of women into elective seats. That is 22% compared to the 17% that was, yeah,
Previous, yeah.
previous elections. And we have a good number of youth. But now the disadvantage that youth and women have is that they do not have an opportunity to or to finance their campaigns. So what do they have? They have manifestos. And when you have manifestos, nobody wants to listen to what you're bringing to the table. They want to know, before even I come to listen to that manifesto, how much are you going to pay me to come to listen to you? So I think as much as we want to listen to, there are these things that the SDG, we want to work on them. When we, even as citizens, are only propelled towards listening to these manifestos or goals, when there is money or something in return, we won't be able to achieve that, because our way forward is pegged on how much money I'll receive, and then after that, no action is taken. So I think we still have a long way
A
to
long way to
go,
go.
especially even after the election. And I think it also starts about integrating these things. Like, let's say if we have the SDGs, you have certain components in the constitution that you want citizens to know. Let's say even the peace component. How can we start integrating peace, love, and unity into Kenyans? Like from the day they are young, so that they grow up knowing that
Their
this is something, these
values.
are the values that I have as a Kenyan. Because now it's hard to not vote against the tribalistic line, because we've been taught through generation that your tribe matters more, this political party, this coalition matters more. So how can we, the only way to do that is unlearn and learn new cycle. And that will take time, and that means that we'll have now to start working with the younger generation so that they can start seeing the bigger picture.
I want to ask you the last question, which is, what is your hope for, Kenya beyond the election day? But I feel like I will not do you justice if I don't ask you this question about, I mean, we've made a lot of gains. And one of the things is there was a launch of, was it an action plan for mental
Yes,
health?
yes, yes,
And
yeah.
so those are real gains. I mean, how do we ensure that some of these gains are not lost, even with a new government, because some of these things have never been provided for in the government, and now we have them. How do we save, especially young people who are, I would say the majority affected, but you could shed light on that. How do we safeguard some of these gains, like having a mental health policy
Yeah.
moving forward? But also, please answer, what is your hope for Kenya as a young woman
I
beyond
think
here?
in order to secure this thing is that if we really want youth to be involved in this space, and that I usually tell youth and women, don't get into spaces, even if you're trying to put in the two-third gender roles, don't get into spaces as a princess or a flower girl just so that you can fill that gap. Get into those spaces intentionally to play your roles and responsibility, to hold them accountable, and to make the desired change. Because sometimes we are told, oh, you'll sit in certain boards, you'll sit in the mental health board. But are you sure that you are sitting in that board as a person whose decision will be taken seriously, or you're just there to fill the gap so that it can be seen and gazetted that we have complied with the two-thirds gender rules, even in selecting boards of these mental health institutions, or
Yeah,
policies, mental
policies.
health
Yeah,
tasks. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and the other thing that we can also look into is how can we try to hold the people. we have the policies. How can we start implementing the policies?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
can we intentionally, as youth, start taking action in the policy cycle to know like how much budget is allocated for mental health? What can we do to increase or to champion or to lobby for more of that? How can we start working on different, how can we bring different stakeholders to work together to ensure that we are upholding and the people who are in this task force, the mental health policy, even the government, and start implementing it so that we are not just launching policies and all these kind of things and we are not actually implementing it. So I think that is one of the best things. And also for us to be intentional. When you're saying we want these spaces for women and young, can we stop gatekeeping and give them spaces?
Yeah.
Can we like be intentional? Because why should I struggle to get into a certain space because you older people are keeping the space for us? So let's stop lying to ourselves that we are trying if you're not intentional in getting spaces in those table for people, for young people to be in those decision making table.
I mean, so we could talk over because you know what, when you said about mental health and especially mental health and how young women or youth are affected by, you know, the dynamics, power dynamics around, you know, gatekeeping, being taken as tokens, we would have this conversation until the end of time. But tell me, what are your last words to a young woman who either was playing a very active role, you know, like you, as a voter mobilizer, as a political leader, as a supervisor, as an agent? What's how do we take care of ourselves after here?
I can echo one of the words that my friend told me the other day. And she was telling me we were supposed to work on something. And I felt like what we were working on was not big for TV. So she was telling me, don't think that any little thing that you're doing is little. You have, for as long as you're doing it, it's not little. So this is for any other person outside there who is listening, that whatever you are doing, you may not see the effects are easy, but it is not little, and you should not underestimate whichever role, opposition, opportunity that you're in, positions that you're in. You should not underestimate it, because at the end of the day, it's playing a major role. You may not see it now, but it is actually building you to be a better person, or creating spaces for younger people to be there.
Thank you very much. Amisa is a young African, audible woman, but also as a young Muslim Nubian woman. You have done well for yourselves, and we're very proud of you as Swaiba. This has been
Asante.
Swaiba, the Audible African Woman Kenya Election Series. And we have had Amisa, who we will have again because this conversation can't end today. But Asante Nisana, we hope to see you again. Subscribe, share, and like. Bye for now.